Welcome back for another video. In this one we're going to answer all the biggest questions and dilemmas for GW28. If you'd like yours answered in a future video, you just need to be subscribed and you'll see a post on your feed taking the questions every week. Thanks for sending in as always, let's get straight into it. Question from Dude Master, who's asking which makes more sense between wildcarding this week or free hitting next week and then save the wildcard. In a nutshell, if you wildcard this week you can set your team up for the blank and you can save the free hit. Or likewise, if you free hit you could save your wildcard for another week. He's summarised some of the pros and cons nicely here. On a wildcard you can maximise the points potential in Double Gameweek 28 and get a decent team out at Gameweek 29, plus you've got the free hit in the back pocket for later, probably Gameweek 34. The downside, of course, is you're going to be taking Luton players in particular into future weeks, where ordinarily they're not good FPL picks. Luton are the only team that haven't managed a single clean sheet in away games this season, and they're double game weeks 2 away games. This one is quite team dependent. If you've got on paper a bad team this week, plus in Game Week 30 and beyond, then there is a case for wildcarding now. Because after free hit 29, you get your current team back. And as a reminder, if you make a transfer in Game Week 29 and then you activate the free hit, your transfer will be wiped. So in Game Week 30, you can have the team back at the very start of Game Week 29 before the free hit was used. Let's say you've got the double Arsenal defence, Estupinian, Hwang, Sessi. Arsenal have got City away in Game Week 30, Brighton have got Liverpool away, Hwang and Sessi are injured long term. These are the types of scenarios where the wildcard makes sense this week. Wildcarding also saves you some hits, which is another benefit. The other challenge by wildcarding now is the bench boost chip. It can take a lot of good luck to have a perfect bench by the time you activate it. There's been more injuries than ever this season, and if you're going to bench boost in Game Week 37, that's 9 game weeks away. There were lots of questions about a wildcard draft this week, so I've put one together here, which is Netto, Doughty, Gabriel Zabarnyi, Palmer, Son, Saka, Barkley, Solanke, Harland and Watkins. On the bench it's Flecken, Maddison, Udogie and Reguilon. If Salah's fit to start against City, then you could have him over Barkley, and you could have Morris over Harland instead, since Harland does have Arsenal Game Week 30, while Salah's got Brighton home then. 5 players doubling this week, so some food for thought there. Daniel asks if it's time to sell Estupinian and who the best replacement is. In his case, he's planning to free hit in Game Week 29. So in that scenario, a Bournemouth defender makes the most sense given it's a really solid home double, and my favourite of the bunch is Zabarnyi. If you're not free hitting in Game Week 29, then Doughty makes the most sense because he plays next week as well. Estupinian's definitely a sell at this point. He's not nailed, he's out of form, and he looks low on confidence at the moment. It's worth mentioning that Kirkes has got the slightly better attacking numbers of all the Bournemouth defenders, but he could be a rotation risk longer term, so he's only one to consider if you're planning to wildcard in Game Week 30 or maybe 31. Chris says, how the hell do I bench Foden after last game week? Some teams are in a luxury position with a stacked midfield, and Foden on paper looks the weakest of them all this week. Some have even got the same dilemma with De Bruyne. Probably a front three of Watkins, Solanke and Morris, or Harland, none of which you'd bench either. In a nutshell, FPL is all about making what you think is the right decision, and if the outcome doesn't go as planned, then at least you can say you felt you made the right decision on paper. It is one of the toughest fixtures that City can have all season away at Anfield, so if it makes sense then go for it. Foden can run quite hot and cold. For example, Game Week 24 and Double Game Week 25, 3 home games and no returns, but obviously he's got it in him to get a brace or even a hat-trick as we saw recently. Time to pray to the FPL gods that he has a quiet game if you're benching him, or likewise lots are even selling him. On that note, let's have a look at the experts' transfers, because some of them are selling Foden. There's a huge amount of transfer activity this week, so hit subscribe for the full experts video which will be out on Friday. Estupinian is their most sold player at the moment, which reiterates the earlier question on what to do with him. Their most transferred in player is Zabarnyi. Some are selling Walker, Trippier and Ake for Zabarnyi as well. Harland's leaving quite a lot of experts team this week for Morris. Many of those are building towards Game Week 29 and saving the free hit. Foden and De Bruyne are being sold for Bone and Son. And lastly, Edison's being shifted on for Netto. Same thought process applies here. City with Liverpool away, and then a blank and then Arsenal. So if you feel it's the right decision to shift them on for a double Game Week player, or a blank Game Week 29 player, then back yourself. This next question is not Game Week specific, but I really like the originality of it. Let us know your answer below as well. Slattery says, fun question instead, if this season went back to Game Week 1 and played out exactly the same way again, starting this weekend, and you're the only one to have experienced it all, but you couldn't write it down or look up any old scores, do you think you'd get to number 1 in the world purely based on memory? I was thinking this one over, and I honestly don't think I'd get to number 1, as there's too much to remember. I jotted down a couple of game weeks that stood out in my memory, like Doku's 22 points, Watkins and his 23 point haul, and that Sterling haul versus Luton early on. That Watkins haul is the biggest score of the season so far, so I triple captain in that week. They might get called out for time travelling with such a bizarre call. I started this season with Fernandes and Rashford, so I could start the season much better as well than I did. Let us know in the comments if you think you get rank 1 in this scenario. Question from Hussein, and he asks what to do with Sessi. Unbelievably unlucky for anyone that just picked him up last week. He's reportedly out for 4 to 5 weeks, so unfortunately he's an easy sell now, even for a -4 for another Bournemouth defender. It's one of those to chalk off as rotten luck and move on. Lots picked up Hwang recently who blanked and then he got injured for a similar amount of time. And some have had players like Adebayo who would have been gold for this double game week but still injured. Lawmain asks, what's the best strategy for those that have used the free hit already? In this scenario, target the Luton players. Or if you've already got some, then buy players that have a game in Game Week 29 like Son and Bowen. Bowen's home to Burnley this week, which is an unreal fixture. Again, it is team dependent. If your team's in really bad shape, then wildcarding this week is viable. Refer to the points in the earlier segment. If you can get to Game Week 29 with 8 or 9 players with the key players covered, that's perfectly fine to be honest. The wildcard draft earlier had only 9 players with a game in Game Week 29, with a view to actually rolling in Game Week 29 and buying Salah in Game Week 30. When the blanks roll around every season, we really have to weigh up how much we want to invest in some of these players just for the sake of 1 week, especially if they're low ceiling players and if it's for a hit, as you're stuck with those players you never have bought otherwise afterwards. Vessel asks about selling Harland to Morris for a -4. We saw in the experts transfer segment that a lot of them are making that move. If you'd said at the start of the season that in Game Week 28 you'd be selling Harland for Morris, you wouldn't believe it. But if you said that Harland's got Liverpool away, and then a blank and then Arsenal, while Morris has got double game week and then Forest home, you might believe it. If you're free hitting in Game Week 29, it's not worth the -4 most likely. Whereas if you're not free hitting, then it is worth it. Another way of looking at it is Harland's got 7.5 points per 90 this season, Morris has got 5.5 points per 90. So it's not actually a hot take that Morris could outscore Harland this week, plus you gain a fixture in 29. Based on 5.5 points per start, Morris at current pace would be on 16.5 across 3 games, which is 9 more than Harland in 1 game, or 5 more after a -4. Electric Tiger asks whether to buy Netto or play Arola and buy a Bournemouth midfielder instead. In this scenario, I prefer buying Netto, despite the nice fixture for Arola. The reason being, none of the Bournemouth mids actually leap out really. Tavernier's got 2 goals, 4 assists all season. Kluivert's got 4 goals but less nailed. And as soon as you've got them, you're probably going to want to get rid for a better midfielder. Whereas Netto's a decent long-term purchase. Pulling up Ben Crellin's fixture ticker with the predicted doubles and blanks included. In Game Week 30, Bournemouth have got a nice run of Everton home, Palace home, Luton away, and then a potential double Game Week 34. So buying Netto is the economical move as well, because we need to spend our transfers carefully, they are precious. Palace could double in Game Week 34, so you'd much rather have Eze in that midfield slot for example. So if you went for Tavernier or another Bournemouth midfielder, and then you sold them later, there's a chance you're 1 double Game Week player down in Game Week 34. Wrapping up with some final thoughts on my team. I've got Edison in goal, Saliba, Gabriel, Pedro Porro in defence, Parmesan, Saka and Gordon in midfield, and then Solanke, Harland and Watkins up top. I've got Estupinian on the bench, who I'm going to be selling for Zabarnyi, and I'll also be selling Edison for Netto for a -4 hit. Zabarnyi's well worth the hit for me, not just because of the double this week, but Porro's still flagged, and Estupinian might not start. Plus in Game Week 30, as we said, Bournemouth are home to Everton, so I can play him along with Van Dijk and Pedro Porro, which allows me to bench the double Arsenal defence against City. It also frees up a bit of cash that's going to be needed for buying Salah back in Game Week 31 at the latest. Thanks for watching. If this video was helpful, drop it a like and make sure you're subscribing. See you soon for the next one.